The reality of life for displaced children in Rafah. Over 1 million displaced Palestinians remain on edge in the southernmost Gaza city of Rafah, where Israel has been threatening a major ground offensive for months. For most, there is simply nowhere else to go in the Strip, and reoccurring Israeli strikes have put children in harm's way. A 4-year-old and 2-year-old from one family were killed by an Israeli airstrike Tuesday, and their parents were seriously injured. The family was displaced multiple times and ended up living in a tent in Rafah, according to their grandmother. This is who they are targeting. This is the safe Rafah they talk about, says the uncle of a 1-year-old who was killed earlier in the week, holding up the child's body. Volunteer teacher Yasmin Abu Matar says children are experiencing a distressed mental state, have no stability and lose focus easily. We work twice as hard to try and grab their attention and help them learn, she says from a tent school. Status of possible Israeli operation. Israeli officials briefed U.S. officials in recent days about their latest thinking on how to evacuate civilians from Rafah, according to 2 sources familiar with those conversations. What was shared did not resemble a final plan and only focused on the movement of civilians out of Rafah. Gaza war. Where does Israel get its weapons? The U.S. has supplied Israel's Air Force with F-35s, the most advanced fighter jets ever made. Western governments are coming under growing pressure to halt arms sales to Israel over how it is waging the war against Hamas in the Gaza Strip. Israel is a major weapons exporter, but its military has been heavily reliant on imported aircraft, guided bombs, and missiles to conduct what experts have described as one of the most intense and destructive aerial campaigns in recent history. Campaign groups and some politicians among Israel's Western allies say arms exports should be suspended because, they say, Israel is failing to do enough to protect the lives of civilians and ensure enough humanitarian aid reaches them. On Friday, the UN Human Rights Council backed a weapons ban, with 28 countries voting in favor, 6 against, and 13 abstentions. The US and Germany, which account for the vast majority of Israel's arms imports, both voted against. Germany said it did so because the resolution did not explicitly condemn Hamas. The war was triggered by Hamas's attack on Israel on October 7th, which killed about 1,200 people, mainly civilians, according to Israeli tallies. More than 33,000 people have been killed in Gaza, 70% of them children and women, the Hamas-run health ministry says. Israel insists that its forces are working to avoid civilian casualties, accuses Hamas of deliberately putting civilians in the line of fire, and has said there are no limits on aid deliveries. United States. The U.S. is by far the biggest supplier of arms to Israel, having helped it build one of the most technologically sophisticated militaries in the world. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, SIPRI, the U.S. accounted for 69% of Israel's imports of major conventional arms between 2019 and 2023. The U.S. provides Israel with $3.8 billion, £3 billion, in annual military aid under a 10-year agreement that is intended to allow its ally to maintain what it calls a qualitative military edge over neighboring countries.
Subscribe to my channel!